What is up, everybody? Good morning, good morning. July 26th on the Morning Vibe. My name is Dr. Vibe, and I'm the host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show. I think we're having a little bit of a technical challenge here, so I'll keep quiet for a second.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was coming in twice.
Well, people don't want two of me. So yeah, I am Dr.
You
Vibe.
don't know that. You might want more than two.
Okay. Host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of epic conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also host the only online show in the world for fathers and dads. Excuse me. That is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization, and I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit that highlights Blacks in the diaspora. They're doing their thing in food, wine, and travel. And to beside me, I go to my whatever direction. Beside me is Ryan Knight. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, I'm good. Always good to see you, Dr. Vibe. Yes, for those that don't know me, my name is Ryan Knight, one of the co-founders of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network. Also, I run a business myself called Detailing Nights, which is a social enterprise that comes to your house and cleans your car without water. And what I'm most proud of with the company is our youth entrepreneurship program, which is kicking into high gear. We actually still have about 4 spots out of the 10 available. So if you have a child that's a high school student or a university student, or isn't in school right now but is looking for a job, send them my way. We can get them employed and learning about entrepreneurship while working for our company. So yeah, this summer, like you said, today's going to be hot. We're going to be doing a bit of training today, so make sure we have some water, sunscreen, and our hats on.
Absolutely. Your audio is a little, it's not 100%. It sounds like almost like you're talking through a glass full of holes. It's not clear.
Does it sound better if it's like this?
No, it's not 100%. I don't know if there's something not right with the audio this morning, but hey, if you can't change it, we got to go roll with it. So how was the weekend?
The weekend was lovely. It was 2 days filled with hanging out with the children, kind of unplugged, and we got to visit a lot of the Black-owned stores around Toronto yesterday. So we got to visit the Little Jamaica Farmers Market. Got our box of mangoes and some interesting honey from Limpton Honey. I have to check the exact pronunciation. But that Christian really loved. He allowed us to sample some, and so we bought some honey. I found a gentleman that imports our products from the Caribbean. Gonna definitely follow up with him. That's who we got our box of mangoes from. So we got my brain churning about how to create those like mini grocery stores, like maybe having hot spots where we can have our own groceries. And then we traveled out to Scarborough to touch base with the Black-owned Toronto store in the Scarborough Town Center.
Yeah. Well, first things first. Since you're on tour, are you camping for office or something?
There's no tour. Listen, just trying to find where, because I had a list of things I needed to buy. So I'm like, okay, where are the Black-owned stores that I can go to first? So farmers market, and then went to Scarborough, and then we came back to Brampton to the Afro-Can Caribbean supermarket that's over on Airport Road. So being purposeful in going places that we own first. So yeah, keeping a list.
How was the market in Little Jamaica? Was it well attended?
It was packed.
Wow.
Very well attended. Yeah, it was awesome to see, and just the kind of vibrancy spilling out down the lane. So people going into the other shops nearby. That active engagement was really awesome. We got live music playing, drumming, and interesting African instruments. That's something that could definitely duplicate in more areas around the city.
It's interesting because I was wondering, I'm going, yeah, it opened up a few weeks ago. What would the attendance be a few weeks down the line? So it's very interesting that the support continues. Now, how long is it on for? Is it just for the summer?
I believe it's supposed to be into this fall, and the hours are tight. It's like 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So hopefully they extend it a little bit. But yeah, it feels like it's picking up steam. As more people hear about it and learn about it, I'm seeing people going to check it out.
So my question will be, what's next after it's done its run?
That's the big question that keeps kind of replaying through my mind too, because even where it is now isn't property that the Black community owns.
Nope.
It's almost like just rented space, right? So now, is there anywhere along Little Jamaica that is owned by the Black community that we can now keep that something like that going? Or is there somewhere that's available that we can now join forces and purchase to make sure that we have our own spot?
Great. What's going on in Black-owned Toronto?
Yeah, it's, continuing to go. Scarborough Town Center seem to have good foot traffic in general. So there are people in the store just grabbing different things. We were able to restock on our jerk marinade thanks to Yadi's. We were able to get the A+ smoothies. I'm trying to have better healthy choices, so no more pop. Even though I did buy a couple sodas from the Afro-Can supermarket. Don't judge me. But I'm trying to stay away from carbonated soda. And what else did we get? We got, another puzzle this time. We got the last time it was Jamaica, the full puzzle. This time it was of Nigeria. So as Christian, he loves to do puzzles. We can actually learn about different countries from Africa and the Caribbean.
Cool. That is nice. I still haven't got there yet. I think we're going to go there during the daytime.
Good idea. Yeah.
When it probably, just theoretically the foot traffic should be less, and I can just hover around, and maybe I'll have the honor of meeting the owner. Was the owner there yesterday?
No, so I didn't see Karen there.
Okay. All right.
So what were you up to this weekend, sir?
Yesterday I just basically took it easy this weekend. It's been quite a locomotive train, so to speak, for the last few weeks. So I took it somewhat easy. I was supposed to have a live conversation on Friday night. The person canceled about an hour and a half, 2 hours before. And then, that's all right. Yesterday, had another great Black Canada talking conversation with Elle Jones, Sarah Youngo, Warren Clark, and Cesar. And they really rocked the house yesterday, talking about a lot of good conversation topics. I'm really pleased that they're able to make a commitment every other Sunday to give a Black Canadian perspective on a number of different Canadian and non-Canadian topics. So I was really pleased I always love to have them on, because they're some of the smartest people I know. So I like to be around people that are smarter than me. So awesome. all good. And it's been some sort of hot summer in Toronto. Like we're getting some serious heat this time of year.
So true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but let that sun soak in.
Yeah, you got more grants to talk about.
Well, for those that may not have heard, so there's 2 active right now, and the one that's due tomorrow. So if you had been listening the American Express Blueprint Grant is due tomorrow. If you have not applied for this grant, or if you're stuck with your application, please email us. We will send you the video that we did with like a full walkthrough and the links to apply if you're just hearing about this grant for the first time. So a quick overview, it's you get $10,000 from American Express and, 15 weeks of mentoring through the Ryerson DMZ. And so even if you, because they're only selecting 100, so right now I saw about 250, well, we were told 250 had applied about a week ago. So by now they're expecting that to double. So about 500 applications should be in, and they're going to select 100. So you have, what's that, like a 20% chance of getting the 10,000 and the mentoring. But even if you don't get selected, you still get access to the online portal that they're doing for the like the business training. So I feel like that is at minimum worth you putting in your application. But the new grant that people are all talking about that came out, I feel like it was Friday or Thursday last week. So the Black Opportunity Fund has started to make some, I would say, progress or momentum. They partnered with CELAR, and what CELAR stands for, I forget. So you'd have to look it up. CILAR, and Pitch Better. So these three companies have now partnered with Facebook to create a grant for Black-owned businesses. And it's called the Black-owned Businesses Grant. So you can get between $2,500 to $10,000. You can use it for like at your discretion with what you need to get done in your business. The application process is pretty straightforward, and it's interesting too because if you already did the American Express grant, a lot of the questions are the same for the CELAR grant or the Facebook grant. So you're like 90% done. Just take those answers and put them over. I did see there's 2 additional questions that the American Express grant didn't ask. So you're already 9/10 of the way there. So don't miss the new CELAR Black Opportunity Fund Pitch Better partnership with Facebook grant. And so people keep asking me, what's Black Opportunity Fund up to? That's their newest announcement. Sorry.
So a few things. Thanks for the update as always. For both grants, some of the questions, do you have to be a registered business?
Yes. So for the American Express one, they're specific. They have to be incorporated. So if you're registered as a sole proprietor, you would not qualify, but you could incorporate before you apply and still qualify. But if you're not an incorporation, you don't qualify. For the CELAR one, I'd have to actually check. I know it's not strict that you have to be incorporated, but you do have to have your business number. So at minimum, you have to be registered sole proprietor to get your business number.
Great. And as always, we want to shout out to our number one fan, Christopher Lawrence, #ownership. And we have a very interesting person in the room today, Robert Small, asking about the Ryerson, the DMZ. Do you have to go to Ryerson as a student? I don't think you have to have No, I don't think you have to be affiliated with Ryerson on that one.
Right, and it's a Canada-wide grant, so across Canada you're able to apply, and it's just Ryerson DMZ facilitating the mentorship. So they partnered with American Express.
Question for you.
All
and
right.
I know you probably won't be able to answer it readily. Out of all the Black businesses that have applied for loans, grants over the last 16 months,
okay,
what percentage do you feel have got a yes?
I would have to split it up because the grants versus loans. So let's start with grants. So grants that are specific to the Black community, there haven't been any Black-focused grants that I've seen, except for the Cassell's grant. I'm not sure if you remember that one. The lawyer group was doing $75,000, but they selected one person. So one person got $75,000. The Ontario Small Business Grant wasn't specific to Black the Black business community. So there were people that did get that grant. So I will keep that to the side because that doesn't count for, well, unless we're including just any grant. But then again, the investment readiness program, that grant wasn't specific to the Black community, but I have seen different Black businesses get that grant and be successful with it. And so then that's kind of the grant side. And now the loan side, I've seen a good amount of people get the SEBA loan, although sometimes it took 5-6 tries to get their documentation in properly in order to get the SEBA loan. And for those that don't know, SEBA was you get $40,000 as a loan, and then they bumped it up to $60,000, and so that was done through the banks, and you just had to apply, and the government approved it. So I did see people get that loan. The Black Entrepreneurship Program. So the Ecosystem Fund, that grant was actually for nonprofits, so it wasn't for businesses. And then the loan program, they launched it in May this year, May 31st. They've been taking in applications. They haven't announced that any money nobody has been approved just yet. They do say it's only been 48 days, and they did get an overwhelming response. I believe 16,000 people have created their accounts. Over 10,000 have started their applications. And they reported that it looks like around 300 to 400 have completed the applications properly. So those 300 to 400, I think, are going through to the next phase of getting funding. But the other 9,600 entrepreneurs are kind of in limbo. They have not been, because there's no ecosystem. So FACE is really talking about the ecosystem that was supposed to be put in place before the loan fund isn't in place yet. So there's nowhere to send entrepreneurs to. I've been saying that there are Black focused organizations across Canada that have been working with entrepreneurs. And yes, we haven't been fortified by the government yet, but we still have capacity to work with those other 9,600 entrepreneurs at minimum, so that they get a response to say, hey, go here to get support so that you can get your applications done. Leaving entrepreneurs in limbo, I don't think is a good approach. And just waiting for the government to figure out and get more money out the door, we know that could take months, and it has been taking months. So that application was due in December, and they still haven't made a decision yet.
Okay. Got some updated information here. Robert Small, not to discourage people and to give them hope. That Castell's Black Focus Grant, I came in second and got $30,000 in pro bono law services. They have been extremely helpful.
That's excellent. I didn't remember seeing the. I remember there was consolation prizes. Great to hear, Mr. Small, that you were the recipient of it. And yeah, getting that help from a law firm would save you a lot of money. So yeah, they had the cash prize and pro bono law services. That's great.
Yeah, and Shirley Joseph, who is head of Black Canadian Content Creators, saying Robert Small, oh cool, good to know. So we have some heavy hitters on board this morning. The Robert Smalls and the Shirley Josephs have taken time out of their positive productive to share with us. Where Steve Ryan Knight attracts the heat.
So is it because I spoke with the Cassell's law group or law firm, and they were saying they were going to do another one in Alberta and Calgary, but it hasn't happened just yet. And I think they're going to go to BC and then back to Toronto. So I'm curious where they're at with the second phase of their grant.
Well, it's interesting. I asked that question purposely because from what you've shared, and you have more knowledge of this than me because you're in the battle, so to speak, and you have the ACBN, a large majority of Canadian Black businesses aren't going to get anything.
Hey, and we've been, so for the investment readiness program, we actually tracked it to say how many people did we help write the grant so that we could see who applied. And then we checked the list of all the people that got the money. And so the first round, there was about 4 out of the 20 from the Black community that got the grant. And we had helped 2 of them. So we actually told the Canadian Foundation, Canada Community Foundations, that we have to look into this, because if only was that like 5% of Black applicants are getting the money, we have to see if that's because the applications weren't good enough, or is there something wrong in the review process, or was there something wrong in us coaching them to do their applications. Like, we have to analyze it, right? So that was, I'll say, positive, because the next round we did have a lot more Black applicants and 2 people that got the money. And it was like threefold. We were able to support better because of our experience with the first round. They were able to look at their review process and make sure that actual representation from the community that's being served is also reviewing the applications and the questions themselves. The first round, they weren't even tracking what types of organizations were applying. They were only tracking what segment of the community was being served. So that's the big debate on how do we measure things when they're not being tracked. So them being able to then track it, we were better at seeing, hey, is this money actually getting to our community? But again, that's just one grant. A big report came out from, the Federation for Black Canadians called Unfunded, which showed philanthropic giving. And I believe it was out of every $100, 30 cents was going to the Black community, which is abysmal. Like, that is peanuts. But then we have to ask the question, is it because the applications aren't good? Are we even applying? Do we even know how to apply for, because foundations really only give to charities. So this is a question for charities to say, are you actually going after this money? So we started doing our own report about the Toronto Community Foundation to say, over the past 5 years, out of all the money that you've been giving, how much of that has been going to the Black community, and how much of it has been going to organizations that are actually Black-led and Black-led and Black serving. Yeah. So that report, I have to send it to you. It's not good. So I think they had given about $15 million, and it was like 300,000 went to Black focused or Black run organizations. And then they came out with the Black and Indigenous grant program right on time, just as I was about to hit send. And so that hasn't even been announced. So they announced it, everybody's applied. Oh no, wait, yes, there was a list of who got it. So they have selected who got the money. So I have to check to see who got it, but like, you only could get, I think, 10,000 and 20,000 with that grant as well.
Foundation?
Yes, yeah.
Actually, ironically, I looked on their list of people who received about last week, and there were a few Black-led organizations, but like 10,000, which is not a lot.
Exactly, especially based on how much they have to give.
Yeah.
They just carved out, I don't want to call it crumbs, but they carved out like something to keep the Black community quiet, and the Black and Indigenous community. But is that really impactful, and is that going to change their giving patterns going forward? I don't know if they've actually made a step in the right direction.
Here's Christopher Lawrence, and with all the business plans submitted for a loan or grant that do not get approved, where do the non-approved business plan to go next to the scrapyard or file for further consideration? Shirley is saying, wow. Christy White, wonderful lady, saying, sounds the same as Indigenous funding.
Right. And
Shirley says, all right.
To answer Christopher's question, so that was one of the questions that was asked to Tiffany at the last face-to-face tour event. That was on Friday at Dream Suites. If you want to do events, check out Dream Suites.
Were you there?
Yeah. I was there.
Oh, well, was it well attended?
Yeah, full room. Well, full as capacity would COVID terms were. I think you're allowed like 20 people, so no, it was full. And good information, but that's the big question. So what happens if your application isn't good enough? So what she said is you don't get declined. So what you do is you get sent to the ecosystem in order to get support so that you can like fix your application and apply again. So it's like a conditional decline. So it's not at the bank they're like, sorry, no chance, come back next time. This is more, okay, we will work with you to improve it so that you can reapply and get the money. But then she was saying the ecosystem isn't in place yet because the government hasn't selected or rolled out that money. So they haven't sent the entrepreneurs anywhere yet. So I think Christopher mentions like you're kind of not in the scrapyard, but you're in limbo waiting to see when the ecosystem is going to be built for Face to tell you go there. I think you shouldn't leave entrepreneurs in limbo because communication is a big thing in the Black community, and when there's no transparency and you leave people without answers.
The word you're looking for is hanging.
Yes, that's exactly what is happening right now, and so we shouldn't do that. And if I show you because I applied for Detail Ignites, and there's a section after you apply that's like a chat bot where you can say, and it says, oh, thank you for applying. You can now, we'll let you know the updates on your application. It's been, oh my gosh, since May 31st. So almost 2 months and no response. No response to emails. I haven't tried calling. So I just need information. Like if you get asked a question and get an answer, that's where people really get agitated. And I was talking with some colleagues that now that we're back in the barbershop, get into chat, at least 6 people are like, oh, yeah, I applied for that thing and nobody's telling me anything. I can't get a response. I keep calling. Now I'm getting weird calls from them asking questions that I don't understand. I'm like, I don't know if this is not the type of press that you want. You want to be able to say you're over communicating. There should be a message. There should be at least a newsletter going out from Face saying, hey, we are working on your stuff. Here's what's happening, even for the tour to let people know. Just for people's applications, at minimum once a week, check in, like, hey, you're in the queue. People love to see progress bars. Like when you apply for something, you want to see where you're at. And Face does not have a progress bar. So hopefully they change that.
So Robert Small has a very interesting comment here, but we also have to put in relevant ask for funding. Gone, hopefully, are the days that people get funding for dinners, entertainment events that don't have a history, or Black people who are just Black but don't have any experience working with or for just Black people. You being Black is lived experience, but it's not work experience.
Well, that's Robert Small, I love you, because that is a comment for the macro level of talking about funding, and especially looking at Black History Month. Like, what have we really been spending money on during Black History Month? Have we been creating any infrastructure that will actually move the Black community forward? Or have we just been doing events and parties, and some of the parties aren't even run by the Black community, but they're getting more funding for their stuff than we are?
Not going
Mr.
there.
Small knows more about that than I do.
I know Mr. Small knows about that. I know about that. It's Christopher Lawrence. We're not going to have a commercial because we're just going to run through because things are just flying here. I don't want to interrupt the flow. Christopher is asking, can a few businesses create a loan or grant for small businesses?
Yeah, we've seen it happen in a micro scale. I mean, Cassell's, it's a law firm that they pool their own money from the different lawyers to create that grant. ACBN, we created our own microloan program from funds that we've generated from our social enterprise to be able to work with entrepreneurs and get the money.
There has to be a rich Black Canadian that could do this set this up on their own. Why is, I'm just saying, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, like, isn't there one or two really rich Black Canadians that could just set this thing up, set up their own infrastructure, and have this? Like,
I thought, doesn't Michael Lee Chin own a bank in Jamaica?
you know what? You're reading my alleged mind. His was the first name that came. His name came up, but I didn't want to give out names. So a few things. So Shirley is saying here, I'm just going to say it. So basically, they're doing as they go, and it seems that they didn't plan ahead or build a strategy before they announce anything with these processes and loans to the Black community.
And surely that isn't an opinion. That is facts. Like, surely saying that, people might push back and be like, oh, but you don't know the inner workings of what's going on. But this is what we're observing. When we're seeing that things are not, oh my gosh, things are not running smooth with elements that are very foundational. Having enough people to answer phone calls or just answer emails, like any business owner knows and they knew that there's at least 20,000 Black businesses in Canada because they did their own data. I remember BBPA was saying that number. So it's possible, like you'd have to have risk contingency that 20,000 people are going to sign up. So what happens if 20,000 people sign up? You would put in place, okay, this is how the platform can handle 20,000. Yes, Bobby is what they built. And you would stress test it to make sure that if there's an influx of applications, that the system doesn't crash. 2, how many people are going to be asking questions? Does our FAQ answer enough questions that people will not be calling or emailing certain questions? What questions are people going to be asking? You might want to talk to organizations that have already been running microloan programs and loan programs to find out what questions people are going to be asking. And Susan Henry is a great example. They're actually partnered with her through Alterna Savings to say, hey, Susan, you've been in this space for 20 years. What are the questions that entrepreneurs are going to ask about this loan program? And she would have told you, number 1, what's the rate? What's the interest rate on the loan? Number 2, what are the terms? Number 3, what happens if you're declined? And number 4, how do we do the strongest possible application and what elements are needed? All 4 of those questions, they did not have answers for when they launched. So that means, exactly like Shirley said, by observing from the outside, you see that they weren't prepared just with foundational things. You can't launch a loan program and not tell people what the rate is. It just doesn't make sense.
It's like banks not telling you what their rates are. They promote it all over the media on their commercials. What their
they lead with that sometimes. They're like, come in because our rate is X, and you can't go into the bank and say, oh, I want a loan, and they won't tell you what the rate. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So this is
at the end of the day, who's giving out the money? The banks, in a lot of cases.
True. And it's interesting because I had a conversation with the minister's office, Minister Ng's office, about the ripple effect that the loan could have had, or the loan program could have had. And it took me a couple of tries and follow me for a minute. So now FACE is managing $291 million. And of that, I think $33 million is directly from the government, and FACE gets to manage that money. So where is that money sitting? That money is sitting in FACE's bank account. Who does FACE bank with? I don't know who they bank with, but I know who they do not bank with. And that's, they do not bank with a Black bank, a Black credit union. So now the money that they're dispersing, even the money they're using for payroll and operations, is sitting in a bank that's not from the Black community. So it's already flowed out of our hands and is sitting in an institution that is leveraging that money. And there are people that know about this more than I do, but when you deposit money into a bank, they leverage that money to loan out. And so the bank makes more money off of your own deposits. And I would love for anybody that has expertise in that to explain it better. But that's the gist of it. So, for example, if the government had that $30 million and helped us to put together the credit union, and then house the $30 million in our own bank to be loaned out, not like to be used for other purposes, but just it's sitting in our own entity, that would generate interest that the bank could use to now support the Black community. And they can leverage it and loan from it. And then it would be loaned to entrepreneurs. And then when it's loaned to entrepreneurs, have we put anything in place that those entrepreneurs have to use Black focused service providers? So in theory, the bank, so FACE is now in the middle. So FACE gets money from the government. It goes to, let's say, a white bank. And then when it's going to be loaned out, the money is approved by FACE, but it goes to the entrepreneur, and then the entrepreneur spends it on a white consultant. Where the money isn't, there's no policy in place to keep the money actually in the Black community. So it could look great that $300 million has been earmarked for the Black community, but in practice, it actually it just flows through the Black community, and it flows to a white bank, and it flows to white service providers. But when we're designing these things, if we actually designed in ways to keep the money, the ripple effect in the Black community, that's where you'll see the actual empowerment of our communities. But when we allow the government to design things, the minister's office wasn't even thinking about that. Like, I had to explain that FACE getting the money isn't the end of where the money goes. And so he was saying, like, well, they would put it in their bank. I was like, yes, but they don't have a Black bank to put it in. So automatically it's out of our community.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying, but the thing is, the reason there isn't a Black bank, whose fault is that?
100% it's on us. And I think we have tried the credit union before, and we're trying it again. The Pan-African Credit Union is in place to, I believe, submit to FISRA. And so they're going through the channels to get it done. What I'm saying is, if the government is going to be really serious about supporting the Black community, within the program that they create, there has to be money carved out to create that infrastructure. And it's not there. So the Pan-African Credit Union now has to figure it out on their own. Instead of this program, they could have taken 15, 20 million and assigned it there.
Let's move it a little bit forward, because the conversation is fierce in the chat room. So next up, Shirley's asking, is FACE continuing their tour in Toronto this week? I don't think so. I think they're done.
Yeah, they hit BC over the weekend.
So I think basically, so they did their Toronto run last week. I had some concerns on how it was put out. That's another whole nother conversation. Christy White is saying, like a rich Indian, I guess adding on to that comment about a rich Black Canadian out there to maybe take charge of this. Christopher is saying, how do we think we can expand on microloans, seeing that entrepreneurship is on the rise? Ryan, when is your ebook on entrepreneurship coming out? Robert is saying, check the BVPA Instagram for what? And
that might be for the FACE tour.
Okay, yes, I think Toronto was all last week, and again, that's a whole other conversation. So, and then where is that credit union at, though? Good question. That credit union was announced a long time ago. Haven't heard anything since.
Right, and that's where again communication becomes key, because
Let me interrupt. I think not only communication, I think working with each other has to be part of that too.
100%.
Why hasn't it launched by now? It shouldn't take that long. And Robert's saying, check www.facecoalition.com. Okay. But I think,
and so exactly like you said, but with a credit union and a bank, it might take time. And that's where those types of things can't be rushed, but we should know, like that question I think that Robert Small asked, we should know where you're at. There should be ongoing communication so that it's not, we're just left hanging and we're like, oh, we heard about that announcement like a year ago. We heard about the survey that they did. So where are they at? Like that, you shouldn't give your customer a chance to ask those questions. Like, where are you? That doesn't make any sense.
And Robert's saying an actual work experience in creating a credit union. Yes. I know a number of people have come to me about some of these organizations and saying, especially one in particular, saying that they have administration over all this money, but they have no experience in entrepreneurship.
Listen, I'll let others go deeper onto that side, because what Shirley was saying comes from a perspective of an entrepreneur. That perspective is lacking in the organization. You can do what you will with that quote, but if they had that perspective, or just people with experience in running business, one, you would know how entrepreneurs are going to react to what you do. Because everything that I do, I'm thinking of it because I'm an entrepreneur that wants that service. So if I was the person asking for the money, what questions would I be asking? And so that perspective seemed to be missing when it was being put together. Maybe I'm wrong, but our observations are showing things that are missing that are very foundational.
Yeah, I think that there's so many conversation topics about this subject in particular that's been going on, but it's an ongoing conversation. I think that Christopher has here. I think for now, microloans should be the emphasis because they work.
And I always talk to Susan from Alterna about this. Microloans are a stepping stone. So based on where an entrepreneur is, they need different supports. And so you need to have tools for any stage that an entrepreneur is in. Because if they're further along, then they need to get investment ready to take on, let's say, angel investment or VC investment. If they're mid-tier where they need to solidify their operations, they could use a term loan like what Face is putting together with BDC. But then when they're more in their infancy stage, so they're trying to understand to get more momentum, more traction with their company. Maybe they're still testing their concept and they haven't found that sweet spot that investment would help to amplify. They're not there yet. So they're still fine-tuning the operations, fine-tuning where they can inject some technology, maybe getting the right inventory or the right equipment. Microloans work great for that stage where it's you're revenue generating. You know what you're doing, but you need to fine-tune it. So you need to inject things to test and to, get that momentum and then become investment ready. So a lot of times programs skip the queue. It's like you skip the farm team trying to get to the big leagues in your first step. It's like, no. There's stages to this. You got to go A, AA, AAA, then big league. So that A farm team, a lot of people don't make it to single A. You have to be good enough to at minimum get to that first level of the farm team. Sorry, I used to play baseball, so I always think in those terms. But the microloan helps you get there, at least helps you get to professional ball. Then you can work your way up with different levels of investment. But if there's no mechanism to even get you, if there's no high school ball, there's no rep, there's no training, there's no coaching, you don't make it to professional baseball without coaching. You need an ecosystem that helps you get there, helps you train to get there. And the microloans is a great piece that we've been using as well.
Robert Small, I think we need to have you on. So you're saying and work experience beyond a year or two actually managing a credit union. Let's be real. Who in that group has that experience? LOL. If I was, quote, Whitey with money, unquote, I wouldn't give it to them either. I love the people personally, but they do not have the experience. That is why the government will never give it to them. Hashtag sorry, hashtag best to be blunt, hashtag truth. Yeah, because at the end of the day, there's just some common sense things, but sense is not common. That if you have someone who's running a credit union, they don't have the experience. How are they going to set up for success? And the challenge is too, their decisions not only just affect them, but they host a whole community of people.
Absolutely. And I know Ivor Christopher is the one kind of leading the charge. So he does have experience working in credit unions, But then to Robert Small's comment, who do we know that has experience operating like a credit union from scratch? And that would be limited. But we do have organizations like COFP, oh my gosh, what's COFP? Canadian, African. They used to be the Urban Financial Professionals. So they have a network full of banking professionals, like high level. That's who we need to be mining.
CAUFP. Yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. What's the lady's name? Merrill Africa.
Right, and Delmar Miller. So these two is who we need to be talking to say, okay, we have this credit union that we're developing. Who in the network could we pull that intellectual IP from to help us form this properly? Because there are geniuses in that organization, that network, but they're all working for other banks. Like that's where if we got money to now attract the talent to say, listen, we can match what you were going to be making at TD or CIBC or wherever to now work in our own credit union. I think a few of them would be interested. But right now we don't have that capital to be able to attract the type of talent that might be needed in order to execute this initiative. But hey, the government could have supported with that. So go ahead.
Robert is asking, why isn't the Canadian Association of Urban Financial Professionals not involved? That's a good question.
I know they had conversations, but I don't know how deep they're involved.
That's a very good question. Why are they not involved? Because that is some of our talented 10th, for lack of a better
word.
And it's a very good point, Robert. Why are they not involved? So I think
they should be involved with phase 2. Like, I don't see where they should have been involved.
You know what?
Listen,
I'm gonna see if I can reach out to. Do you know Meryl at all?
Yes.
Could you reach out to her and see if we could have her on? I would really be get to get her perspective on
100%. Yeah.
Going on, because they are one of the leading financial organizations. Like, they've got the people in their community who know all this stuff. It's a good point. Why haven't a number of these organizations that say they want to help the Black environment? Because I'm not a community guy. That can. Why aren't they getting their expertise? Because they work in those organizations. They know the language. They know the speak, etc., etc.
Exactly. They've been in it. Like what Robert was saying. They've been in it at a high level too. It's not like front office or bank tellers that make up this network. It's execs. So, and that's where I was telling Ivor, you should have started there. If you're thinking of putting together a credit union, there are certain organizations that should be involved from the jump.
Robert's saying, don't bother calling her. She'll probably say that the people don't have the experience, and that's why. Well, even if she said that, I'd like her to come and give her perspective, because she has the value experience. I would just like to have her on, because actually that's an organization that a lot of Black Canadians don't even know about.
Very true. Right.
So it'd be good to give them the promotion of publicity, to just say, hey, we're out here, etc. I don't know what she's going to say, but again, good point. Why aren't they involved in this process? Why aren't
Yes.
And it'd be interesting to all these organizations ask them, do you know about this organization? They probably don't.
Very true. Yes.
They probably don't. Well, I think we have consumed enough of your time this morning, folks. But hey, epic this morning. Like, very rare.
It's so good to see everyone.
Yeah, like Christopher, as always, thanks. Robert Small, Christy, Shirley, everyone else who watched live on the replay, thank you so much. Because usually we do run I do run a commercial, but the conversation was flowing, so I said, no, let's keep the commercial.
Yes.
Look at Robert. Robert's saying, I have a $5 on her answer. LOL.
Jeez. I'll take that bet.
Christopher saying, thank you, gentlemen. Great show. Hey, this has been great, and it's always good when Ryan's not in his tie. So I know
that's how you know it's hot.
Yeah, it's hot, and that's when really that he's gonna really let loose. So for everyone, you can catch replays of the Morning Vibe at the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and Facebook. Also at the Afro-Canadian Business Network on Facebook, you can catch the replays. Please subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook channels. We'd love to have you there. We produce, both our platforms create a lot of continuous content outside of the Morning Vibe. Ryan, what do we have coming up on Friday?
Friday, so Garnet Manning confirmed he is going to be joining us to, I guess, take us through, like, I won't say political, but he's so entrenched in just the Black community itself. Politics is just one dimension of it, but yeah, getting his perspective on, hey, what he's seen in the Black community, and are we actually making progress? Are we standing still, or are we actually going backwards? Would love to get his take on it.
So there we go, folks. Good stuff. Robert, thank you. Great show, brothers. Robert, I'm going to reach out to you and see if you would like to come on. I would love to have you come on.
Yes.
I'm going to just sit back and take notes, because that's going to be fire with you coming on and talking again. And people, please follow Robert Small. He's been doing incredible stuff for Black Canadians for years. So he is talking from an evaluated experience standpoint. He knows what he's talking about. He's been an entrepreneur since when? Mm-hmm. And he knows, and he is definitely doing things for Black Canadians for the right reasons and the right intent. So definitely, Robert, thank you so much for helping this. And look at this. You go, so someone can rant into the comments. No.
Well, if you're not there, at least you saved yourself from your own rants.
Fantastic. So I'll always like to close out. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourself grace. If you're in the Toronto area, stay cool. It's hot out there. It is very hot out there. So stay cool. You know, if you have air conditioning, great. If you don't, find somewhere cool wherever you can, because this heat is not playing around. So God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith. And remember to give yourselves grace. Bye, everybody. See you Friday.